So, in the last video, I shared 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck ideas, new ones, that you could try out. But in this video, I'm going to appeal to all of the grandpas in the room. We're going to talk about some existing older Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategies, maybe that have gotten a little bit of like rejuvenation in recent months. But yeah, this is for people who don't like change. So, I'm kidding about that, don't get triggered. Yeah, let's hop right in. Deck number 1, Artifacts. So a lot of people really, when they think of artifacts, they think of like Lancia as a side deck card, Scythe and like Sanctum being used. Recently, Morale Attack came off the ban list, but they did recently also get Artifact Mjolnir, a new support card that, in my opinion, was long overdue. The Artifact deck, as a standalone deck, is not the best thing, but it's actually kind of fun. Basically, because Sanctum is at 3 and Morale Attack's at 3, you've got that really powerful, reliable engine. You've got Scythe, for example, to like stop your opponent from using special summons or whatever from the extra deck. But when you use all the cards in tandem, you can actually summon things like, you know, their in-house boss monster, Durandal, which can, you know, make your opponent like lose spell and trap effects and stuff like that. Trigger your artifact summons. There's still Ignition at 3. There's actually like Twin Twisters and Heavy Storm Dusters if you want to use those types of cards to get rid of your own artifacts. So this deck, it's not bad. I mean, I've seen people win with this locally, and you can combine it with a lot of other different strategies because you've got like level 5 light monsters. You know, you can make things like Constellar Pleiades, for example, as strong boss monsters. I think the only real weakness here is that it's kind of tough to make some Link monsters, but not too bad, right? Like in a world where Heavy Storm Duster and Twin Twisters are somewhat prevalent, your opponent might just accidentally hit your artifact cards, and I mean, that could just trigger them right there. Second deck, Noble Knights. So Noble Knights recently got 2 cool cards, Isolde, which is kind of the highlight card a lot of different decks are using, and also Glory of the Noble Knights, which immediately just equips a Noble Arms card to any of your Noble Knight monsters. This is really neat because it means you can equip, say, Destiny to one of your monsters on the spot if it was about to get destroyed by like Dark Hole or whatever. You just chain, equip Destiny, and boom, your opponent like wasted their card. Pretty fun. What's also really neat is that it combos well with like Noble Knight Dristan, because whenever he gets equipped with a Noble Arms card, you get to pop one of your opponent's cards. So by using this as a quick play spell, you can actually use this in your opponent's turn or whatever, equip him with a Destiny or any other Noble Arms card, and then you get a free pop. It's great. I mean, like, it's in your opponent's turn. So Noble Knights aren't magically going to be top tier overnight because of any of these changes, but they are a lot of fun to play. So I say get a hold of them if you can. Not too much in the deck is very expensive, though Merlin can be a little bit elusive to get your hands on. Other than that, though, it's not too bad, so fun deck to try out. Next is Ephra. Now, this deck actually has been getting some competitive attention lately. A few topping builds of Ephra have been around, and it's not even just like, you know, the Yang Zings. I mean, they also use like Zephyr Windy and Zephraxiton, that type of stuff. You know, Oraclo Ephra, Zephyr Providence, Zephrath, all those cards you can use on, what is it, Zephyr War and Zephyr Strike, the 2 traps. I actually want to build this deck. I know that's weird and has nothing to do with the video, but this is a deck that Trell actually played once and it was a lot of fun, and I decided, you know, it's kind of been doing well, even without like Denglong and stuff being legal. So it's a deck that I want to build. It's a cool pendulum strategy that's not Magicians again, so I'm gonna give it a try. I think you should too. Number 4, Ritual Beast. So they recently got a Link monster as well, an Extreme Force. Ritual Beast, Kaimun Falcos? Yeah, so Ritual Beasts are a deck that kind of fell off the competitive map, especially after they lost cards like, you know, Ulti Cannahawk to 1, E-Telly to 1. But if they were to get those cards back, that would be great. Even now, though, they are quite playable. It's a fun deck. It can search some really disruptive cards like, you know, Ritual Beast Steeds, and it can loop Advantage really easily. Because they've now got a Link monster, you can finally put 2 fusion monsters in the field at once, which is huge. But this deck does still sometimes suffer with like kind of having strong opening plays. You really need to be running like Gold Sarcophagus and Foolish Burial and stuff so that you can get your beast monsters like ready to be used with like Elder and Win and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, all in all, it's still a really fun deck to play. It's not gonna be like winning every single tournament anytime soon. But between like this new Link monster and like Ritual Beast Bond from last year, it's not the worst thing in the world. Alex has been playing it, and I mean, he takes games off people every now and again, so maybe you can too. The next deck's Cleaforts. Now, this is a deck that I always just hated for some reason. I was just like, Cleaforts, gross. But I've been using them on YGO Pro recently, and you know, to be completely honest, it's not that bad. As you guys know, we recently got like Sacrifice moved up on the ban list, which is nice. Towers came off the ban list. I will go ahead and sort of like burst the bubble here. Cleaforts aren't like incredible.
mainly because they still only have one copy of Qliphort Scout, and that sucks because it means like if you can't see that Scout, and also if the Scout gets Ghost Ogred, which is a super popular card right now, then but when it all works, it works pretty well. You can still do a lot of your pendulum summoning shenanigans. You know, if you can ever tribute summon for things like Disc, you can get a lot of damage on the board. You tribute summon for things like Stealth, using like, you know, Cephalopod and Helix and all that stuff. You can get rid of a lot of your opponent's cards. It's a cool deck. They even got a Link monster, although I have to say Qliphort Genius is not like all that integral to this strategy. But it is a Link monster that they can summon to open up more zones, because normally their pendulum monsters don't allow you to summon anything that's not a Qliphort, so you gotta take the good with the bad. And when you do get towers out, it's still just about as annoying as before, so there's that. The next deck's Gym Knights. So check out Calvin's profile of this if you haven't already, it's really cool. Gym Knights are most infamously known for the whole Gym Knight FTK, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, the deck can like function on its own too. Like many of the decks on this list, it recently got a Link monster, which is nice, Phantom Quartz, but yeah, I mean, you know, by combining this deck with things like Block Dragon and previously Level Eater, though it's banned now, you can actually like pump out a lot of just Gym Knight fusion monsters pretty easily. Block Dragon can protect a lot of them, it protects your rock monsters. It's a pretty powerful Link strategy, and one that I feel is very underrated. A lot of people oftentimes focus just on the FTK, but my goal is to actually get a duel with Calvin showing Gym Knights in action. He's actually really good with the deck, believe it or not. So that might be fun, look out for that. But yeah, Gym Knights, they're fun to build, can get a little pricey like here and there, a few of their cards, but it's a fun one. Then there's Burning Abyss. Check out Chris's Burning Abyss deck profile if you haven't already. Burning Abyss are neat because they can use like Orbital Highlander, Vanity's Fiend, a lot of cool tech cards today that surprisingly take opponents off guard. Now, because of Master Rule 4, you only get to have like one Dante or Beatrice or whatever on the field at a time, and this deck does suffer because of it, although they are supposed to get a Link monster in the future, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, this deck can still function quite well. I mean, like a lot of times just using things like Twin Twisters, some trap cards, or just Anti-Spell Fragrance and evenly mats and stuff, you can stay very competitive with this deck. It floats, and I think the best strength of it is that it's very resilient to hand traps. Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Droll, a lot of those cards don't really work well against this deck, and so I think that its resilience combined with kind of just the general floating and disruption that it can offer make it a pretty strong pick. It wouldn't be a top 10 deck video with Paul if Mermails didn't make the list, so Mermails, there you go. But okay, I guess I should say something about them. You can use frogs, meh. You can use the Mermail stuff, nah. They recently got a new card, nah. I just like Mermails, you should too. It's strong, it's fast, it's a combo deck. It's kind of fragile, but it can also OTK and like hand loop and stuff, so pretty cool, yes. Okay, moving on. Shaddoll Dinosaurs, a deck that's been topping here and there lately. This deck is cool. It can use Overtext Quatless, I hope I said that correctly, and Giant Rex, stuff like that with like the Ultra Evolution pill. And by using Overtext Quatless and stuff like that with the Shaddoll Fusion and those cards, you can summon things like Winda really easily. And Winda plus like Superconductor, Ultraconductor, Ultimate Conductor, Tyranno. Those types of fields are really deadly to deal with. It's another deck that, like Ephra, for some reason I just woke up today and wanted to build, so I probably will be. Trell's played it a lot, so he's probably going to have to give me some tips. But yeah, Shaddoll Dinosaurs, it's a fun deck. It's not terribly expensive either, so if you have the dinosaur cards and, you know, the Shaddoll cards, give it a shot. And last but not least is Counter Fairies, which did recently get a structure deck, which is really cool. This deck, it uses counter traps. I mean, you probably already knew how this worked. What's cool though is that because of some of the new Counter Fairy cards, they can actually accumulate and recover advantage as they use their counter traps, and they finally have a go-to boss monster, which is really nice. In addition to that, this deck works quite well with Ties to Brethren, and can also work quite well with Card and Mise, although those two cards sort of conflict with each other, so sometimes you have to kind of like pick which one you want to use with the deck. But yeah, when it gets rolling, it's cool. Its biggest weakness, of course, is going second. You want to be able to go first to use, you know, Card and Mise and all that stuff, get your trap set, get your monsters in the field, and start accumulating advantage. Still though, I mean, while it's not the most viable competitive threat, it's a lot of fun, or not, for your friends, for facing friends, for playing at locals. So yeah, give it a shot. It's really cheap. And those are your 10 Yu-Gi-Oh deck ideas that are old decks that are kind of like better now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, I did make a video about the same thing except for newer decks, so be sure to check that out. If
If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Hit the notification bell so you'll know when all the cool new vids go up. And follow me on Facebook and Twitter. This is gonna be it. I'll see you guys in the next video.